What's all this talk in spirituality about having no self-image? If you already have a good self-image, then what's the problem? Well, let's look into that. Perhaps it's more of a trap than we think it is. You're listening to Consciousness and Me, and my name is Josephine. So, having a positive self-image, well, it's certainly preferable over having a negative self-image. There's a lot of suffering and caught up in thinking that you're not worthy or that you're not good enough or that other people are better than you are. So initially, there can be a salvation in transforming your self-image into a positive one. That you are a kind person, that you are a good partner, that you are a competent colleague, that you're whatever you'd like to fill in. These positive traits. I'm a good meditator. I'm a righteous person. I'm a funny person. Yeah. The problem is, however, that as soon as we label something as good, we automatically give birth to its opposite. It's like we create the shadow side. So if I'm saying, like, let's say I'm a good meditator, well, then I've also created the option of being a bad meditator because an evaluation has taken place. So I can't be a good meditator if there is nothing on the opposite scale. There has to be a bad meditator in order for it to be a good meditator. And even though I prefer to be a good meditator or to have that image of myself rather than a bad meditator, I still kind of have this fear embedded that I could be something else, that I could kind of fall from this pedestal I put myself on. That there's something I have to do or achieve or be in order to fall into the good category rather than the bad category. And the question is, I guess, what's the point of being a good meditator? What does it give me in comparison to being a bad meditator? And you could phrase it differently for different people, but what it usually points towards is that my value is somehow tied up to being a good meditator, or my lovableness is tied up to being a good meditator. So basically, I have allowed my lovableness and my worth to be connected to something that can be evaluated. And just by knowing that it can be taken away from me, right now, I am lovable or valuable because I am a good meditator. But there is a risk that if I don't live up to those standards, my lovableness or my value can be taken away from me by me or by someone else making a judgment. And that in itself creates this underlying tension of fear, a tendency to want to label, check in that I'm still a good meditator. I'm still in the good category and not in the bad category. But the fallacy is actually further up. If I have nothing to prove to the world, if I don't have to live up to anything, if my value is given, if my lovableness is my nature, then it doesn't really matter if I'm a good or a bad meditator. It's not a thing I am. Rather, having no self-image is stepping out of this creation of duality of good and bad. Because if I don't attach myself to an image that can be valued, I have nothing to defend. The only thing that's interesting is how do I show up in this moment? It means that what I'm doing in this moment, is it anchored in truth? Is it anchored in love? Is it anchored in my true nature? It doesn't matter if I live up to a script of being a good meditator or a bad meditator, a good partner, a good colleague, a good societal member. The evaluation never have to take place. Am I in alignment? Does this feel like I am expressing my deepest truth? No evaluation is really needed. And if you're new to this, it can be a bit challenging because we're brought up with this idea that we have to have a self-image. I have to have an image of myself at my core. How otherwise will I move in the world? How do I present myself? And that's an interesting question. How does one navigate if I don't have a mental construction of who I am? If I haven't attached a bunch of labels to an idea of myself? And I'd like to suggest that we don't need an image of ourselves in order to act out our nature. Like, say, for instance, a bird. As far as we know, the bird doesn't have a mental image. It doesn't go like, oh, I'm a really tough pigeon. I'm the best flyer in the neighborhood. No, it just does its pigeon thing. It shows up, it eats when it's hungry. It hangs out with the other pigeons when it feels like it, or whatever pigeons do. A bird lives its whole life without having a self-image, and still it engages in life. So in order for life to play out, we don't need a self-image. But most of us humans do, so we have the capacity to form it. The question is, does it serve us to have one? And yes, naturally, if we have to choose between a good self-image and a bad self-image, I think I know what all of us will choose. But it's almost like we go blind to the option of having no self-image. And I'm not free of this myself. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I realize that, ooh, I can let go of the self-image I have. It says nothing about me. But then life happens and I find myself being back in identifying with an image of myself, trying to live up to a standard, rather than going to what's alive in me in this moment. Trusting that the best way to express is to express what's alive in me. Anchor myself, not necessarily in my emotions. If there's frustration arises, because traffic is chaotic, that doesn't mean I express from frustration. I mean, I can, obviously. We've all done that, I think. But there's a deeper layer to me. So I try to anchor back in my deepest truth, which is peace, which is love, which is truth. And then I hold my frustration with that, and I try and act from the deeper place. That's more in line rather than me having a mental construction of me being a patient person who does not get frustrated by traffic. Well, maybe that's true 99% of the time, but right now there is frustration about this traffic jam. Might never show up again, but right now it's here. It doesn't have to alter an image of myself, unless I choose to have an image of myself. So the trap of having a positive self-image. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a question of why. Maybe we're just setting ourselves up for more suffering where it's actually not needed. What's your idea about self-image? Good or bad? Or any questions you have? Anything you'd like to share? Please do so in the comment section. And thank you for joining me on this little unplanned adventure. And I hope to see you next time.